Take you to the story now. Nurses under Denosa will be marching to the Gauteng Premier's office this morning. They're also planning to march to the Health and Treasury departments. They say post-community service nurses have not received payments for months and are also not being absorbed into vacant positions in Gauteng. Our reporter Govan Whittles is following that story. He joins us now live for an update. Govan, just to clarify for me, if you could just ask the people who are protesting, when we spoke to the health department a week ago, this was last week, they said the very next day salaries would actually be dispersed into into the different accounts of these community nurses. Hasn't that happened?
That did happen, but not all of them were paid. There's still a number of them who haven't received their salaries, and Denosa says they've done an audit and confirmed not all of the people who were supposed to receive their salaries have received them. And you've come to us as they've decided to start the march. This march will now move here from Cosatu House, and it will move towards the Johannesburg CBD. There they'll stop at the Department of Health. That'll be their last stop. Before then, they'll head to the Gauteng Premier's office, and then they'll also be going to the Provincial Treasury. Aside from the nurses who they say have not been paid and the health workers whose salaries are outstanding, they're also calling for a bigger allocation of money in the Gauteng government's budget to the Department of Health. In short, here you'll see this is Bongani Mazibuko. He's the Provincial Secretary for Denosa, speaking to us about this march. Mr. Mazibuko, thank you so much for your time. Let's begin with the purpose of the march and those unpaid salaries. How many health workers are still waiting to be paid?
As at the last report that we got, we still had about 20 or so healthcare workers who were still not paid. And then there's about 50 or so who have received their salaries, but only for the month of June. For the past the 2 months that they were not paid, they still haven't received their money still. And this march is to highlight some of the challenges that we've got within the Department of Health. Shortage of nurses, the retrenchment of nurses by the Department of Health, and also issues of security, safety and security, because we've had healthcare workers being attacked in the workplace and so forth. So we are taking this opportunity to highlight those issues and also to highlight the budget cuts that have been experienced by the Department of Health. Hence we are marching to the Premier's office as well.
Let's begin with the people here. Who are the people that are marching today?
These are nurses, and then we've also got support from some of our COSATU sister unions like NEHAU and CWU. So, but mostly here it's nurses who are frustrated, who are members of Denosa, and they are tired of the experiences that they've had with the Department of Health, and they are here to send a message to the department and to the office of the Premier.
You've outlined some of the complaints that you have. Among them, you blame the long waiting times at hospitals and clinics of understaffing on the Department of Health. That's who you say is to blame here. What are you hoping to achieve with this march, considering those complaints?
We are hoping that those nurses who are currently community service nurses, who will be finishing at the end of the year, they will be absorbed and taken permanently, as we have been fighting for the current cohort of post-community service nurses, that they be employed, and the department has since committed that they'll be employing them permanently. And then that will also go a long way in alleviating the shortage of staff that we're experiencing in the department. And furthermore, we are hoping that with this march, the Premier's office and Treasury will also prioritize the Department of Health in budget allocation and making sure that they are able to execute their mandate of providing health care to the people of Gauteng.
All right, thank you so much. That's Bongani Mazibuko, Provincial Secretary for Denosa, and one of the leaders of this march, a number of other unions here, and we'll be joining them, taking you along with us as we cover this march and speak to these nurses about their experiences on a day-to-day basis and what they would like to change. It's back to you.
All right, Govan Whittles with that report. Just lastly and very quickly, Govan, I know that the program is for them to stop at various offices. Do you know exactly what else is in the memorandum of demands? And also, Govan, COSATU, or Denosa rather, is an affiliation to COSATU, which is, another trade union that has always, for instance, threatened the ANC government to punish them when it comes to voting, especially when it comes to salaries. Have they said anything about that yet?
The memorandum has some of the complaints that he's just outlined, and in it they also have demands which they believe will solve some of the problems that exist within Gauteng's health services, such as greater allocation of money to the Department of Health, also the insourcing of some of the nurses. Remember that in 2020, the National Department of Health announced the insourcing of at least 2,000 community healthcare workers nationally. Now they want similar arrangement in the provinces and say that since then, considering the pandemic, there have been a larger number of health workers that have started to volunteer and now have been left without any paying jobs. As for the politics behind this, COSATU is going to a provincial conference at the end of this year towards September. And these unions are facing increasing pressure to flex their muscle and demonstrate their strength ahead of that conference, where they'll be hoping to field a number of candidates. COSATU has admitted that since the late Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Jesse Duarte, had taken ill and wasn't able to perform her duties in that office, they haven't had a functional alliance and the Secretariat couldn't conduct proper meetings. The President of the ANC has promised to address this, and they hope that that'll open a channel for them to have problems such as these addressed immediately and some action being taken, but they admit that the relationship has fallen stagnant and they'll hope to speed it up following those commitments from the President. So this march is meant to put some pressure on the provincial government, particularly the Gauteng ANC, to do what these nurses and health workers are asking, but whether or not they'll get that right will be told or will be indicated by some of the responses to the memorandums once they're handed over at the different departments.
Govan Whittles, thank you very much for that report. He is in the Johannesburg CBD at that protest. Denosa, or nurses affiliated to Denosa, are actually going to put their complaints at the door of the Premier of Gauteng.